Imagine being the victim of a crime and then watching the person who hurt you simply walk away minutes later with nothing but a promise not to do it again. Well, that feels wrong, right? Well, it's happening everywhere, all the time, and not somewhere else. It's happening where you live. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the perception of justice and why we might have to start listening to kids if we want to start dealing with things and cleaning it up. Stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll understand what's happening and, more importantly, what you can do about it. Is justice being served? Judging by what you see and what you hear today with your own 2 eyes and ears, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that your answer is probably no. And it seems that no matter what continent you live on, people everywhere feel the exact same way. I don't think it's political or even partisan to admit that out loud. I'm talking about the low sentences that people are receiving for crimes against other human beings. And sometimes no sentences at all. People arrested for assault or threatening another human being are often released on scene after signing a few documents, promising to abide by certain conditions, such as not to have any contact with the victim directly or indirectly. They have to attend a police station or a division for fingerprints, and often they have to agree to appear for court at a later date. Sometimes this happens even if the police and the victim are fairly certain that the suspect is going to reoffend. Or in some cases, the suspect's already reoffended, and they're still released on scene with more promises and more conditions that they have to agree to. Victims are often left in complete disbelief that you're just letting the person go right away. They get mad at you, they swear at you, and I'm talking about the police. I've done it myself. Release somebody on scene after they signed the required paperwork, sometimes within minutes of the offense taking place. And the victim, or multiple victims in some cases, they're now pissed off at you, the police officer. And sometimes you can't even blame them. You can't hold somebody or keep them in custody based on your personal thoughts or feelings. There's criteria, very specific criteria that needs to be met in order to release somebody. And if they meet that current criteria, you must release them as a police officer. And if you don't, then you could get into trouble. Imagine arresting somebody and bringing them to the station for processing. And while you're parading the person in front of the officer in charge, you're requesting that they remain in custody because, let's face it, we all know they're going to do it again. It just doesn't fly. Even kids know when this is going to happen. I was at a get-together this past summer, and there was tons of kids there. There was more kids than adults for some reason. So, of course, you're going to run into some problems. Kids not playing fairly. These things are bound to happen, okay? It's normal. Well, one of the kids seemed to be a bit rough, and honestly, just seemed to be like a bit of a bully. He was ruining some of the fun for the other kids for no reason at all, just to be a problem. And he seemed to do it over and over again, no matter what the parents said. Anyway, at one point, his parents made him sit on the side for 5 minutes and then told him that he could try and play nicely with some of the other kids. And some of the other kids, the same age as him, asked why they have to play with him anymore. They said they're just going to do it again. That person's just going to do it again, which they did. They all knew it. And they were all forced to change their behavior to accommodate this other kid who was a bully. They were walking on eggshells, wondering if they were going to be the next victim to feel this kid's wrath when he lost his self-control. It kind of feels like the same thing as adults. We're all on this giant playground trying to do our best, hoping that the bully who has already been caught and warned numerous times for committing assault or smashing property won't target us or another family member when they don't get their own way and they decide to go off again. You hear it all the time. The police release the suspect on scene. This creates a lot of anxiety, naturally, for the victims or the victim's family, and also to the rest of society. Because, listen, if the victims were unknown to the suspect and it was a random assault, then maybe they're next. It could have been them. It could have been you. As human beings, we all need to feel some sense of safety and security during our daily lives when we're out shopping, going to work, filming videos. I don't think it's too much to ask those in positions of power or authority tasked with keeping the rest of us safe within the current system to do that to the best of their ability and to hold that system to account if something goes wrong. I think it's only fair that we can do that. I spoke about something similar in one of my recent videos, and someone commented that my thoughts on this matter are both partisan and political. And they asked me if I plan on getting into politics. Well, the answer is no. I don't plan on getting into politics, not now or ever. But I don't see this topic or my views on this as partisan or political at all. I guess the issue can become politicized, whether we choose to admit it or not, but people from all political parties are speaking up on the issues of crime and punishment. And I'd say that there's an overwhelming feeling that most people agree with some sort of bail or justice reform. You hear it everywhere, whatever that may look like. It doesn't feel like justice is being served. Victim groups everywhere are speaking out. People who don't normally get involved themselves with justice issues are speaking out because of some of the randomness of some of these crimes that they're seeing. They know that they could be next, that you could be next. Politicians are speaking out. I'd even say that some politicians who don't normally touch on issues such as crime and punishment, they're also speaking out because their constituents or their voter base, they're becoming more vocal. And they're demanding that something happen, that change take place. Police services are speaking out. Police officer, chiefs of police, police unions, they're all speaking out, not just for their members, but for the public, for public safety. Now watch this quick clip of a current police chief speaking about what's being called the catch and release system. I think he does a great job. Listen to what he has to say. This is not some boring police press conference. This is actually fairly good and it's quick. So have a listen.
What we've done now is introduced essentially, we flipped it on its head, and we are now letting people out of custody who we wouldn't have let out of custody prior to that. Is there an overcorrection? Probably there has been an overcorrection as a result, and that's why I said I'd like to see that particular piece of legislation modified. And I believe that you have the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and many of the police associations who've all signed on to that. It's not to say that people shouldn't be let out. It's just to say that that particular piece of legislation needs to be amended in order to allow for a better application.
When I became a police officer in the year 2000 and attended police college, all the recruits had to provide their thoughts about a well-known quote that I was not aware of before becoming a police officer. Anybody in law or law enforcement will no doubt know what I'm referring to here. And it's also why I'm filming this video. Lord Chief Justice Hewart once famously said, "Justice must not only be done, but must manifestly and undoubtedly be seen to be done." For those of you who need a simpler version like I do, justice must not only be done, but must appear to have been done. It's simple. People need to feel and see that justice is being done. That particular quote came from a hearing involving a minor collision. However, it's been the basis of several decisions of administrative and other branches of law for many, many years now. Justice must not only be done, but must appear to have been done. Does that reflect what you see or hear happening these days? People get so upset, and so do I, with some of the sentences being handed to criminals. How can the courts and the politicians not see how these light sentences handed out so publicly are going to piss people off and cause distrust in the justice system? I have my ear to the ground in terms of justice and policing matters, and also, I'm online quite often. I have a large presence online. You can sense how people are starting to take notice. Crimes against the vulnerable especially get people riled up. Animal abuse, that can cause a revolt. Seemingly easy questions are asked. Why wouldn't the judge just hand out a longer sentence or a stiffer penalty? The sentence is available to judges, but there's so much case law that's established that even judges, they really have to explain why they would give a stiffer penalty or a sentence to some and not others. And there's case law for everything: assault, abuse, neglect, impaired driving, and even far worse crimes, I'm sorry to say. So what's the point of this video? These things affect us all, directly and indirectly. If your neighbor was a victim of a random home invasion, you better believe that your actions are going to be changed. I mean, hey, thank God it wasn't you, right? But from now on, you're going to be doing things different. Installing lights, cameras. You're going to want to know what happened to the person that they caught. You're going to become enraged when you find out that the suspect was already charged for this exact thing on more than one occasion and they're reoffending now. And if they weren't caught, you're going to be living in fear. You'll naturally become more invested in the current issues of crime and punishment after it hits home or close to your home. Otherwise, you'd rather not think about it at all. And that's normal as well. Out of sight, out of mind. It seems like there's elections being held everywhere these days, or coming up, all over North America, locally and federally. I think there's a high turnover rate. Look, there's Facebook groups, campaigns. You can write politicians and their representatives. You can conduct a petition. You get enough signatures and your issue will have to be addressed. You can't be ignored. There's lots of information out there on how to get involved, and it's fairly easy to find. I would say that if you're watching this video, you most likely have the resources and the knowledge to take the next steps, to get involved. Listen, if you find this information helpful at all or entertaining, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It helps boost me up the algorithm. More people will get this information. And if you have anything to add at all, please leave a comment. I've mentioned in the past, I read every single one and I respond when it's appropriate to do so. So listen, folks, thanks for watching. And until the next video, be safe out there, look after one another, and perhaps we will see you again.